Today, let's do some TOEFL speaking, specifically how to organize your answer for question number 4. I will use 2 lectures, one from biology and one from psychology. While taking notes, have some organization in mind. I will show you how I would take the notes. This is the biology lecture.
We all know that insects like to eat plants. But some plants have been able to develop ways to protect themselves from insects. Today I'm going to talk about some ways plants defend themselves. Now, some plants have physical features that prevent insects from landing on them. Like the passion plant, for example. Its leaves have little spiky hairs all over them. They're like spikes sticking out of the plant that are so numerous and dense that they prevent insects from landing on the leaves. Basically, there's just no room for the insect to land. And since insects can't land on the leaves, they can't eat them. So the little hairs serve as a physical feature that helps protect the passion plant from insects. All right, but other plants protect themselves using chemical defenses, like the potato plant. The potato plant's able to release a chemical throughout its leaf system whenever an insect attacks it, starts eating the leaf. So, say an insect starts eating a potato plant's leaf. That will cause the plant to react by releasing a chemical throughout its leaf system. The insect swallows this chemical as it eats, and this chemical discourages the insect from wanting to eat any more of the plant. How? Well, the substance makes the insect feel full, like it's already had enough to eat. The insect no longer feels hungry, so it stops eating the plant. So, by emitting this chemical, the potato plant protects itself from insects.
Using points from the lecture, explain how the passion plant and the potato plant defend themselves from insects.
Biology lectures are typically much simpler to summarize as they usually discuss 2 different strategies. These are some example responses.
Passion plants and potato plants have different defense mechanisms against herbivores. Passion plants use physical defenses, such as the dense, spike-like hairs on their leaves. These hairs make it difficult for insects to land on the leaves and eat the foliage. In contrast, potato plants use chemical defenses. Their leaves contain special chemicals that make insects feel full when they eat them. This unique chemical deterrent discourages insects from eating the leaves further. Passion and potato plants defend themselves from insects in different ways. Passion plants use physical defenses, such as the dense, spike-like hairs on their leaves that make it nearly impossible for insects to land. Potato plants, on the other hand, use chemical defenses. Their leaves contain special chemicals that make insects feel full when they try to eat them. This unique deterrent discourages insects from eating the leaves further. Passion plants and potato plants use different strategies to protect themselves from insects. Passion plants use physical defense. Their leaves are covered in dense, spike-like hairs that make it difficult for insects to land on them. Even if an insect does manage to land, the hairs will often prick them, causing them to fly away. Potato plants, on the other hand, use chemical defense. Their leaves contain special chemicals that make insects feel full when they eat them. This is because the chemicals mimic the hormones that insects produce to signal that they are full. As a result, insects stop eating the leaves even though they are still hungry. Both passion plants and potato plants have evolved effective defense mechanisms to protect themselves from insects. These mechanisms help them to survive and thrive in their environment. Passion plants and potato plants have different ways of defending themselves against insects. Passion plants use physical defenses, such as the dense, spike-like hairs on their leaves. These hairs make it nearly impossible for insects to land on the leaves, preventing them from eating the foliage. Potato plants, on the other hand, use chemical defenses. Their leaves contain special chemicals that make insects feel full when they try to nibble on them. This unique chemical deterrent discourages insects from eating the leaves further. It's amazing how plants have evolved these different defense mechanisms to protect themselves from insects. It's a reminder that even the smallest and most vulnerable creatures have ways to survive.
This is the psychology lecture.
Scientists have learned some interesting things about the intellectual abilities of babies. They say there's evidence that babies as young as 5 months old can do basic arithmetic, that they can add. Scientists think babies know that 1 plus 1 equals 2 and not 1. The evidence is indirect because obviously you can't ask a 5-month-old baby to add up some numbers for you. So they devised an experiment where in this experiment, a baby is shown a doll on a table. Okay, so the baby looks at the doll. Then the researcher lowers a screen in front of the doll. So now the doll's hidden behind the screen. But the baby's already seen the doll and so knows it's there. Well, then the researcher takes a second doll and very obviously places it behind the screen with the first one. Okay, so now you have 2 dolls behind the screen, right? Well, no, because what the researchers did was they secretly took away one of the dolls. And then when they raised the screen back up, the baby, well, it expects to see 2 dolls, right? But there's only one there. And guess what? The baby's surprised. It expects 2, but it only sees 1. How could the researchers tell that the baby's surprised? Well, they recorded the baby's eye movements on camera. And we know that when a baby is surprised by something, a loud noise or an unexpected flash of light maybe, it stares at where the noise or light is coming from. And that's what the babies in the experiment did. They stared, because a baby knows that if you add 1 doll and 1 doll, you should have 2 dolls. So when it sees 1 doll, then it stares because it's surprised.
Using the research described by the professor, explain what scientists have learned about the mathematical abilities of babies.
Now, this psychology lecture is challenging to summarize since the lecture mainly talks about an experiment that aims to test the hypothesis that babies can do basic math. To explain how babies surprise means that the babies can do math, you must understand how the experiment was conducted and describe it correctly. These are some example responses.
Scientists have learned that babies as young as 5 months old can do simple math, like 1 plus 1 equals 2. To test this ability, they conducted the following experiment. 1. A baby is shown a doll. 2. A researcher lowers a screen in front of the doll, hiding it from view. 3. The researcher then places another doll behind the screen, but secretly removes 1 doll. So now there is actually only 1 doll behind the screen. 4. When the screen is lifted, the baby looks surprised. From this, the researchers infer that the baby can do basic math, because it is surprised when it sees only 1 doll instead of 2. This suggests that the baby expected to see 2 dolls, because it had seen the researcher add 2 dolls to the screen. Scientists have discovered that babies as young as 5 months old can do simple math, such as 1 plus 1 equals 2. To test this ability, they conducted the following experiment. 1. A baby is shown a doll. 2. A researcher lowers a screen in front of the doll to hide it. 3. The researcher then places another doll behind the screen, but secretly takes away 1 doll. So now there is only 1 doll behind the screen. 4. When the screen is lifted, the baby looks surprised. The researchers infer from this that the baby is surprised because it expected to see 2 dolls. This further means that the baby can do basic math. Babies as young as 5 months old can do simple math like 1 plus 1 equals 2. Scientists tested this ability by showing babies a doll, hiding it behind a screen, and then secretly removing 1 doll before placing another doll behind the screen. When the screen was lifted, the babies looked surprised, suggesting that they expected to see 2 dolls. This shows that even at a very young age, babies have a basic understanding of numbers.
Don't forget to check out my TOEFL reading and writing books on Amazon to ace your TOEFL reading and writing sections of the test.